Sounds as if, righto, good. Okay.
Sorry, I have an apology. Trendy Walker.
Thank you.
And Julie Evans. Can people hear me? Yep.
Yes, yes, we heard that. Thanks, Michael. Any others? Okay.
Olivia Hyatt. Sorry, I'm just looking now. Mary Bronstetter.
Who was that one, Anya? That second one?
Mary Bronstetter and
Okay.
Olivia Hyatt.
Thank you. Any others? Righto. Let's start with the karakia. And I'll use one that I've used before because one of the foci of this hui is the weaving plan, and this karakia uses the metaphor of weaving in a really beautiful way, with the meaning being weave the threads, the threads that are people, the threads that connect us with those who've gone before and join us to them and join us to each other and link us to the natural environment around us. Continue weaving still, weave to make them firm so that they'll last for a long time for our descendants, and bless the living world. So here it is. Whiria ngā aho tangata. Ngā aho e whakawhenuahia e ngā mātua tūpuna. Ngā aho e hono nei i a tātou ki a rātou. Tātou ki a tātou. Tātou ki tō tātou pū tai ao. Whiria ngā aho i pū mai i nehera. A e whiria tonutia nei, e whiria tonutia nei, whiria kia tū roa ai. Mō ngā uri whakatupu, tihei Maori ora. Okay, so setting the scene for this hui, we here are change agents in a changing world. And we have a few changes of our own to get our minds around tonight in our own forum community. We are changing from the incomparable Julie to me as chair, and to the absolutely priceless Jessie as coordinator, to Marlene, who you will see on the screen there. And I'll say a bit more about Marlene a little later in this hui. So this may be a good moment to look up from our ever-pressing work, to just take a glance at our vision again. And I noted that the Climate Change Commission, bless them, talked about transformation of our society, and it is indeed nothing less than transformation that we're aiming at. And so for a moment, let's just play with the near at hand vision of 2025. That's just 4 years. And think about what we want to see in 2025. The combined brains of this forum can fill in many details of this vision, but let me just draw a few broad brushstrokes of it. If we think about targets, the 10% a year emissions reduction is seriously needed and is also difficult. We have 1,200 kilotons of carbon dioxide equivalent in this region per year, as measured in 2018. And we will need to reduce that by about 33% by 2025 to stay on target. Of the 100,000 people in this region, our vision might include the idea that most of them will be taking some action by then, ranging from a little to a lot, in order to achieve that 33% reduction. Part of our vision, reflected in the work of some of the folk in the forum, is that children will be educated to understand and act on this greatest challenge to their lives. Most people will support the broad system changes enacted by both our central and local governments. Maybe a third will have changed their diet to more plant-based eating, and a third, we hope, will be out of their cars and into active and public transport by then. A third of all farmers will need to be on track for low greenhouse gas emissions and high biodiversity farming. And our natural areas, terrestrial and marine, will be expanding and on track for restoration. So if those broad strokes contain within them lots of details, but if we have a vision of something like that, where do we in the forum fit into that vision? We can think of the policy advocacy level, where we need, as responsible citizens, to keep doing something that we already are doing, and that is writing submissions as they come up. This is, as probably almost everyone on this screen knows, this is quite a time-consuming process, and getting it approved by our group and the forum is a bit of a thing. But I think it's essential that we carry on doing it, and more continue to come up as we complete infrastructure. The Mines Act comes up for review, and on it goes. But we mustn't get stuck just in telling governments what they should be doing, because our councils and our central government can move only as fast as people will tolerate. And this is the special asset of our forum, that we can work at the flax roots in a way that our governments can't and don't have the opportunity to, and we do. We work at that level, reaching out to people, and in doing that, we change society. We all know that society does change. We've seen in our various lifetimes, longer and shorter, changes in how people regard women, marriage, homosexuality, gender spectrum, racism. We all see society continually changing. And society changes when people talk to people and the media talks to people. And this is where we come in. This is our job, talking to people, showing by example. And our climate action book has been developed to support these conversations with people and groups, and I hope that you're enjoying using it. Our vision includes lots of people becoming aware of their own greenhouse gas emissions and acting to reduce them. And in an upcoming hui, I hope that we can spend some time on the process of of doing climate action plans. But that's enough for now, and let's get on to the next bit of the hui, which is celebrating successes, particularly successes of things that have been accomplished in the last month. This is a new section of the hui, so be prepared for it in upcoming hui. Mark up your successes to report to the rest of us. But let's see what we have today in terms of successes. You'll need to indicate to me that that you'd like to speak by, I guess, just putting up your hand like this should do the job, I hope. So who would like to say something about successes? Oh, Callie.
I've been pre-warned, so I'm pre-prepared. So I've just got a single slide with everything on, so I'll just quickly screen share. And here we go. I can't remember how to get rid of all the stuff at the side, but however, we'll move it. So since we last had our hui, we've had 2 repair cafes at Restore. The first one was in conjunction with the Nelson Council, and it was their Fix It Saturday, and they chuck money at that left, right, and centre, which has its negative side. Carlo's been interviewed by Fresh FM, and that's now up for listening to. It's great interview. We were filmed last Saturday by a guy called Daniel Grade, which is part of the Nelson Council promotion, Aren't We Green and Wonderful? And that, it might even be ready tonight, but I think it's going up tomorrow. There should be an article in the Leader today, but I haven't got the Nelson Leaders, I'm in Muteri, so I don't know if it came out, about waste. We've become affiliated with the Repair Cafe for New Zealand. We're also now affiliated with restarters.org, which are in London actually. And I came across them through something else, and I sent an email last week and said, is it too left field to advertise on your website? And they said, no, sure, we advertise Australians, repair cafes. And the first person I met who I didn't know on Saturday at the Repair Cafe had found us through Restarters. So it works. We're still doing our single-use plastic letter writing to supermarkets and organisations. We're going to start a letter writing campaign about glass and bottle deposits. We're still doing our waste minimisation stuff with Karen. We are, or some of us, 2 of us, and Jill Harker, who's from another group, is manning the stand next Saturday, or 2 days' time, at Anna's Brook for the Volunteer Day. Our next meeting's tomorrow morning. And there are 2 other things that I want to add in. One is I'd really like to work alongside Consumer New Zealand because they've got a new project called Built to Last. And the other one is that Restarters actually have a system on their website. So as long as you know what you've repaired, you can put it in and find out how much CO2 you've saved. And it was 23 kilos, which from Saturday,
Yeah.
and I haven't put everything in yet, which apparently is equivalent to 39 hours of TV watching. So there you go.
That's fantastic, Callie. Thank you very much. That's very, very inspiring.
Well, I've got a lot of co-helpers on screen here today, so a very big thank you to them.
Well, thanks to all involved, and you can see yes, just note the possibility of showing your applause. Yeah, thank you. Any other successes that people would like to report? Bruce.
Okay, well, hadn't thought of doing this one, but I was thinking of you all while I was doing it. So this morning I presented to the Parliamentary Select Committee on, full name, Financial Sector Climate-Related Disclosures and Other Matters Amendment Bill. And I think it went very well. Why I say that is, well, the things that I was saying seem to be reflected by some things that others were saying as well. So in particular, the thing that I was asking for was that the companies required to report be expanded to include large private companies, if they meet a certain threshold, and also SOEs to be included, that the stakeholders in financial statements and annual reports be not just investors, but also employees, suppliers, customers, and the general public. And finally, that the legislation is really aimed at disclosing the ways in which the climate impacts on companies, but not on the way the companies impact on the climate. And so I and some others referred to that and are looking for a change of focus on that. So it might not happen, but I think really the good thing is that this legislation, world leading, first in New Zealand, announced by James Shaw just before the election last year, is very likely to be passed. It'll be good if it can be broadened a little, but even if not, it's good legislation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Bruce, and thanks for your participation in it. You really exemplify the sort of expertise in certain areas in our forum put to good use. So many thanks for that. Any other, Jace?
And also, sorry, Jessica also had her virtual hand up. So I'm not sure if you saw that, Joe.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Jessie. Well, can I, that was a few moments back. Jace, do you mind if I go to Jessica first?
No,
then
not,
to-
not at all.
I put it back down again. Because I think it was discussed at the last hui. I was just going to talk about just from a council perspective that we got the funding secured, but that was talked about last time. It's old news, and I don't have any other council kind of new.
Thanks, Jessica. It's lovely that we have you reporting in that direction.
Date. But carry on.
Thank you. Jace, go ahead.
I think everyone would be heartened to know that the community compost event has expanded, and there is both mechanization at the dump that processes every Thursday. But I understand that Richmond now has got a community compost, and Motueka is starting one. So this whole food waste minimization program is moving forward, and I think it's just a heartening sign.
Excellent, and thanks for your participation in that. Any more successes before we move to the next thing?
Anya, you've got one.
Oh, yes, she has. Anya, let's hear about yours.
What's
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's nice, isn't it? Yeah, we have a window display in Nelson City Council, and yeah, it looks good. Yeah.
Very nice.
So
So
hopefully
anyone
we'll get
walking
Hopefully we'll get some interest. I put a bunch of little toy animals. I hid them all around in the display, hoping that people will bring their kids down to count, see how many animals they can find hidden in the jungle. So yeah, we'll see.
Thank you, Anya. I think a lot of work goes into stuff like that. So many thanks for doing that. And don't forget, if you're walking past the council offices, have a look at what Anya's done there. Okay, we now move to the science spot. And David Eyre is going to lead us through that.
Yeah.
To you, David.
This is going to be an interesting thing here because I tried doing this a few seconds ago. Having tried this out yesterday to make sure this would fine, and I got past the tech glitch that I hit a couple of days ago. When I tried it again just then, approximately 3 or 4 minutes ago, it was glitching again. So just bear with me for a moment. I'll see how easily I can make this work. And we'll see whether it's deciding it's going to be problematic or simple. Coming up momentarily, or not, as the case may be. The answer is it's going to continue to glitch. So I'm going to try doing it a different way. Excuse me momentarily. Hate it when you get tech glitches, you know what I mean? Okay, let's try doing this one. Can you see what I'm seeing at the moment in the way of a screen? Is that coming up where you are?
Now we just have the view of faces.
Okay. Everything on your screen, including notifications, will be recorded, enabled, screen broadcast, start broadcast. Okay. Let's try doing it this way and seeing what happens. Can you see what I'm seeing on my screen now?
Yes, we can see
Okay.
a screen broadcast bit.
Right. Okay. So in that case, I'm going to try switching over to this and try doing it by the emergency backup plan and see whether that works. Okay. Okay. Whoops. Wrong way. Oh dear. Right. This is something I'm obviously going to have to struggle with here. Okay. Right. Can you see what I'm seeing on screen at the moment, which contains page 1 of 5? It's going to be a bit messy at the moment. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. My apologies for being in a rather sort of confused space here. Try that version. No. That one. Okay. Trying to avoid wasting too much of your time. But if you can see it well enough, this is the Plan B version. 5 pages here. The first one is basically social science. Adapting to COVID-19. Countries that have been hit very badly by COVID-19 are somewhere we haven't reached yet, which is starting to look at post-vaccination world settings. And there are 3 different links there. I'm going to be sending this 5-page PDF file to you with the whole minutes and everything that follows as the next newsletter or the next connection that you get from us. So therefore, all of these links and all of these comments in this are basically going to be something you're going to see. Therefore, you don't need to take any notes on. But it's basically looking at the question of how various different countries are starting to adapt to the post-COVID world, which in one significant case is leading many of them to think in terms of the fact that because RNA viruses mutate very quickly, it is quite possible that we will need to change our ways of working in order to provide ongoing protection at a higher level than we've done in the past, which means that many different countries are now starting to look at revising their work at home and other similar related legislation to enable their people to work at home or more to work remotely or in a more flexible way than they have done in the past, which because we've actually been protected by isolation and by MIQ, we haven't actually had to think about those kind of things. And sometime very shortly, I suspect that's going to become a reality here too, that we're going to have to plot a lot more detailed paths through the future than we have done up to this point. And that will affect a lot of things because our whole pattern of moving around our community may change. That's one thought. Second thought, physical science. Earth continues to warm. Scientists from NASA and NOAA in the United States say that the Earth's energy imbalance, in other words, the amount of energy that we're getting in from the sun versus the amount of energy that's being reflected back into space by radiation, has basically roughly doubled from 2005 to 2019. If you look at the detail of it, there is a lot of variation from one year to another, but despite the fact there's a lot of variation from one year to another, the trend line is upwards. And because they've done that through 2 very specific sets of information, one from NASA and one from NOAA, and they agree with one another very closely. They have very high confidence in the fact that that trend line is real, and therefore it's another one of the elements of us understanding more about what happens in terms of the rate at which the Earth is warming. Third one, physical science in terms of heat waves. As many of you may know, about 75% of the American West is currently in severe drought, something which has been building over the last 20 odd years or so. And as a result of that, a large number of people have basically become quite adapted to the question of dealing with drought conditions as best they can. This year, the twist has basically started earlier, in the sense that the heat waves that often occur in most summers have started to arrive earlier and appear to be inclined towards staying longer, as well as driving to a higher temperature. Many areas in the American West in the last week or 10 days have risen to temperatures around about 50 degrees centigrade, which is very significantly higher in some areas than they have been before. And in other areas where they've equaled them before, they're equaling them at an earlier point in the summer than they have before. Again, part of the general process of seeing things heating, warming, and needing to be very strongly aware of those kind of patterns. Each of these things, as you can see, are basically accompanied by a variety of different links. I tend to take most of my links from regular newspaper articles from something like the UK Guardian, because it has very good coverage of climate science and related things. Many of the other links are from other similar related places. Number 4 of 5 is one of those things which is right out of left field. During a conversation a week or two ago, beginning of June, a Texas congressman, Louis Gohmert, was talking to Associate Deputy Chief of the U.S. Forestry Service, Jennifer Eberlein, and asked her, based on his understanding, if it was possible for the Forest Service to somehow change the moon's orbit around the Earth or the Earth's orbit around the sun, since he understood that both of those might be a useful solution to climate change. Besides being rather bizarre in the sense that for someone to even think that we're capable of making those kind of changes, it was quite a struggle for me to understand how that would actually be something that anyone could even remotely begin to believe, assuming that he was in any sense as serious as his face indicated. The mindset that seems to be present is this thing, whatever it is, in this case climate change, is inconvenient. Someone has to be able to change this. After all, we're people, and people can do anything. So long as I continue my life unchanged, things will be fine, which is a deeply non-rational position to be taking up, therefore needing to be thought about, and for us to be conscious of and aware of when we actually meet people that are meeting those kind of ways of looking at life. Last point, science education and science journalism. There is an excellent data visualization video called Degrees of Uncertainty, produced by documentary filmmaker Neil Halloran, that I came across a short while ago because Jace met it and he sent it out to a variety of different people, and I was one of them. It's 24 minutes long. It produces a very clear presentation of a whole variety of different aspects of the science of climate change. In particular, it encourages us to take a close skeptical look at what scientists are saying in order to understand the patterns of work, and also maintains very strongly that imagination is very important, both in science and in shaping our future. I very strongly believe that's well worthwhile seeing and thinking about, hence the link to the YouTube file that's there. And I'll send the rest of it around a little bit later on.
Thank you very much, David, for putting that little compilation together. And,
You're welcome.
as you said, there is a lot to think about, and it is important for us to be aware of the many developments in science as they affect what we do. So the next spot is a new one, and that is the arts spot. And I would encourage others in the forum to think ahead of what you might have to offer in the way of poem, song, video clip, all forms of art for this arts spot connected with climate change. And let me just check that this one is ready to go. John Paul, are you okay for this?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's go.
Roughly.
Righto, let's have it.
Okay, so I guess for the last few years, I've been, most of my work has been art-based, but probably loosely. I mean, a lot of the work that I've done is really about community and bringing people together. Mike Nelson was really around that collaboration, bringing people together, working together. So in an abstract way, very much relevant to what we're doing. And we have another project coming up that I'd mentioned, which is going to be at the Organic Gardens in about a week's time, and at Victory, which is around community, and it's bringing people together, creating something together, and then bringing it together for those events. But what I thought I'd talk about today was a project that I was actually exhibited in City Gallery a few months ago, which was the soil models, which I showed at one of the Hui's when we were up at Riverside, the Riverside Hui. So it was an early version of that, and this was born out. It was last year. I wanted to do something that was really around. It was things that were hidden. So we don't see CO2, and we don't see plants breathing, and we don't see that all those things that are happening. So it was really to try and the original concept was to show something around CO2, to be sensing CO2 in the environment, sensing CO2 in a gallery, and actually visualizing that in some way. And then COVID hit, so the gallery exhibition was basically postponed, well, council at the time postponed, so we had to rethink it. And Simon, who I've been collaborating with, an artist up in Auckland, we came out with the idea, well, we're both interested in the game of life. I might start sharing my screen if that's okay. Screen 2, screen others. So if you're not familiar with it, the game of life was something I remember studying at university, and it's basically a very simple rule base. And if you look up, actually died last year. It was very recently anyway. But he came up with these just simple rules that when you ran them over a grid, produced some interesting patterns. And this is one that you end up with things that are just carry on. Some things disappear, some things grow. So we started thinking about this as like a game environment. What could we do online, because we couldn't go into a gallery anymore. And this concept of having something fun that somebody wanted to play with, or something was recognizable as a sort of game environment, just to engage people, engage children, and that whole Minecraft voxel world we've been playing with. So I'll just so this is actually a talk I did with Simon at the gallery. So this is online, which I actually didn't know. Well, I just found it when I was searching for the gallery pictures. So it's quite funny. Let's see, everything that I said is recorded here, which is interesting. That was one of the things that I said at the end, was I didn't think there was much point in doing anything unless it's got a message. And we'd gone from, before the gallery, we were protesting at Ravensdown and trying to stop, basically shut Ravensdown down. And then, and here I am, I'm doing earth models, which is basically, the idea of these models was to show that regenerative farming. You know, what the difference between you know, putting synthetic fertilizer on the ground and you know, just basically allowing nature to take its course, and all the interactions that go on there. So this is basically, let me just switch to another document. This is a working document. So one of the things we were looking at, and we talked to various people around this, was this whole idea of all these things that are happening in the ground, and the interactions with you know, the beetles and the worms and the bacteria and every, you know, how could you simulate all that and show it? Because if you just keep putting synthetic fertilizer on the ground, you kill all that off, and then you're basically reliant on constantly putting this fertilizer on. So yeah, so this is what we came up with, you know, this idea to simulate this and show this in some way. So the city gallery. So this is what they looked like. I don't know if you can see that picture. This is one of Simon's early work. So he'd actually been. This is a painting. So he followed rules, but actually did a painting following those rules, which is quite cool. So our work has sort of collided in some ways. And these are the three models on the wall, and this is what it looked like. So this whole idea of seeing the unseen, so you could see the computer inside the box as well. And then the soil model running, and basically this would, over a day of the exhibition, it would run a simulation based on rainfall and the interactions of bacteria and everything, and then each day it would rerun a simulation, and people in the gallery could interact with it by waving their arms around and selecting different things, putting fertilizer on the ground, making it rain, that kind of thing. I do have a video of this running somewhere. Yeah. And this is it's actually a broken version because it's the only one I've got a video of at the moment, and which has been updated. So this is basically a day's worth of simulation running in about 10 minutes. So you can start to see the plants growing, and the worms moving around inside, and then the water on the ground. And so every block within this model and within the soil, even though it's only 100 by 100 by 100, is a million blocks, of course. So to run a simulation constantly running in real time, it's actually a bit of a challenge in itself. And as a model keeps running, you'll start to see the bacteria and the fungi building up around the roots, because of this symbiosis with the plant system, the root system. Yeah, so. And the big blocks there are just stone. So this is actually showing, so you'll see on the top, at the top of the screen there, the different layers that it's showing. The original version that was running at the gallery just had one type of bacteria, and I thought that was cheating. And so it did end up splitting into 3 different main types of bacteria, but there are 1,000. And one of the things that we really had to work on was how you simplify this down to something that was science-based, still an art project, but that we could justify the model. So yeah, every block in the model only knows about the surrounding blocks. It doesn't, you know, it is like a real life situation. So they you know, if there's bacteria next to it, then it interacts with the blocks that are next to it. Yeah, and you'll start to see the plants grow. So this is now evolving, and we're doing a new work that'll be at the new art center in Whangarei, which is going to be more focused on trees. And I'll say more about that, but we are talking to various people as well. But this is, for us, it was, you know, to get something in a major gallery like that was really good, you know, and to be able to expose so many people to something, you know, just this idea, just to plant a seed in people's minds of, you know, what is actually going on there. Well, what is it with, because you know, you look at the plants in the ground, and if the plant's growing, it's growing. But without knowing that, you know, what's the health of that soil underneath, you know, this is the idea. This will show you. So this has dandelion. Well, I call them dandelions, grass, and bushes that grow in this at the moment. And yeah, you see the worms sort of going around there. I can't move around this with this, but you could actually interact with the model and actually zoom in, peel back bits. We also did one that was really around soil erosion. So that's sort of how it started. But we're going to do like a big landscape as well, and these soil models would fit into that. So you can actually see how that you know, when you've destroyed all this infrastructure in the soil, you know, that you also make it so that soil is vulnerable to erosion. So all that starts to get washed out into the rivers. So, I don't think I've got a picture of that. I was trying to pull them up earlier.
It's
Yeah.
Thank
so anyway,
you.
So I'll leave it at that anyway. So watch this space. There's some more. You know, so there's a new exhibition coming up that's based on that, and we're, you know, the idea is that this model could be used for all kinds of things now that that's you know,
Yeah.
been created basically. But yeah.
Thank you very much, John Paul. It's astounding how various are the ways of approaching understanding of phenomena, and that's one that I said is certainly new to me and very arresting. Thank you very much, John Paul.
You're welcome.
And again, just reminding people to think about the July Hui and what you might have to offer that comes from the world of art. So Jessie, over to you now, because we want to be talking about the weaving plan, and Jessie will take us through some work on that.
Do we first want to do the check-in with each of the groups to report back on what they're doing, Jo?
Thank you. Yes. Let me just check. Will you lead that part, or shall I?
Happy to. So this bit is really just, and we've sort of touched on some of it already with the celebrations of success, but it's an opportunity for somebody from each forum topic group, as well as any of the other groups that are here that really want to share something, just to say what you're working on, what's coming up for you, and try to keep it to about 2 minutes if you can, so that we can all get to bed before midnight tonight. So first up, we'll start with what we grow and eat. Is there anyone from that group on the call who would like to just give us a bit of an overview of what's going on for your group?
Yep, it's Jessica here. I'll just do a quick update. Mainly just an upcoming event that I'd love to encourage everybody to come along to. Annette Litherland from the Landcare Trust has organised Rod Oram, the business commentator, to come and host a session around how our landowners in Nelson, Tasman can become climate champions, so that's happening on the 1st of July, next Thursday, at the Muteri Hills Community Centre from 6 to 8 p.m. So that's going to be a mix of landowners from the area, Rod Oram speaking and Annette Litherland speaking, and yeah, so I'll put that up on the Ning website, or just send me a message if you're interested in coming. I've sent it around to the land use group already. And the other thing, just a quick little report, with some of the Climate Commission analysis that's come out, I have seen an economic analysis done of the impact that it's going to have on jobs and skills that we need, and where future jobs are going to be. And the analysis that I saw, it had about 20,000 jobs leaving the agriculture sector from the meat sector and the dairy sector, in terms of farmers, and also those working in the processing sector. And so I think that is that's obviously going to be, once some of those numbers sink into that industry, to our primary industries, I think there's going to be quite a bit of shock and a lot of defensiveness, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens. And this is where we get to really start to talk about the just transition element, and where are those people going to go to, and what are those jobs going to look like? Because also, some of that modelling is based around shifting away from sheep and beef and dairy farming and into forestry. and mainly exotic, quite a bit of exotic forestry and the forestry sector growing. So it'll be really interesting to sort of watch the primary industry's response to those numbers, and whether it might cause a bit more tension in what is already quite a fractured relationship between government and farmers and landowners at the moment, and how we're actually going to kind of work our way through what needs to happen over the next few years. That's all from me. Becky might want to talk a little bit about edible mapping. She might have an update from that if she's here.
Thanks, Jessica. Over to you, Becky.
Yeah, hello. Me and Marlene have actually been doing some work on the edible mapping. Not much to report, to be honest. I have to put my hands up and say that pregnancy is hard and really tiring. So I haven't done as much there as I'd have hoped, and hopefully me and Marlene will work closely together to put together a proposal for that. But there has been interest from all the councils, including over in Marlborough, to get something set up. If anybody is interested in that, we're still looking for other people from the forum to join the team, especially seeing as I'm going to have to take a bit more of a step back with the baby being due in 5 weeks, and we're just wanting to put my energies around that. But it seems like it's a really fruitful project, and it seems like it's got a lot of interest from councils and community groups. So it'd be great if people wanted to get on board and be involved in something that's going to have some action around it, in actual planning, mapping, IT skills, working with the council and everything. So if you want to get on board, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. Kelly, you've already talked a bit about what your group's been up to. Did you want to add anything?
I haven't anything specific apart from our next repair cafe is on July the 17th at Restore. Leslie's online. Do you want to say anything about the bottle deposits and glass, or anyone else? I've said enough today already.
I think you've given a great summary of everything, Kelly.
Excellent. Okay, on to how we get energy. Anyone from that group? Oh, Jill, sorry, Jill, you've got your hand up.
Could I just, a quick comment about the repair cafe? Muted, sorry. No, okay.
We can hear you. Yep, go for it.
They're going really well. Lots of active volunteers, not enough customers turning up because it's rained really hard. So any of you are welcome to turn up with anything that you want repairing, and please encourage your friends and relatives. They're not, I don't want them to think we're overwhelmed. We need more work. Is that okay, Kathy? I'm out now.
Thanks, Jill. And just on that, the Repair Cafe, it's a recurring thing, and it's an amazing opportunity for any other groups from the forum who want to sort of go and be part of the growing community around that, to also like recruit people to help you with the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I'd just add that we had about 12 new people who were interested in more what we're doing, and looking, one or two of them were actually looking at repairing, becoming repairers. So I think it's going to get quite a lot of groundswell, but they've just doubled our costs for renting the room. So we've got to become self-sustaining. Right, that's all, thanks.
Okay, over to how we get energy. Anyone from that group here want to talk about what's going on? Resounding silence. You've got 5 seconds to speak up if anyone would like to speak about this group. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. Alrighty, moving on. Where we live and work.
Yep, I can. That was urban development, right? I'm still catching up again. Yes,
Correct.
very good.
Yeah.
We'll probably give a little bit of an update. We're still in the process of replacing a very loved Rachel Sanson, as she's had to step back from group leadership and in respect of some council requirements. We may end up with a co-leadership situation in that case. However, work's going on, and we are regrouping. I'm convening a regroup of the hospital build project at the moment, where we're looking to develop a relationship of understanding with the Nelson Mulber DHB board and the project team, indeed involved with the new design and build project. First of all, understanding where the project is at, because it's been pretty closed to date, and then with a mind to ensuring the forum's values are reflected in that, particularly embodied and operational carbon and living design spaces as beneficial to patient and worker health, and a few layers beyond that, but effectively. So anyone who believes they have an interest in that, you're very much welcome to drop by. That's also directly related to a project by the health group of the forum, I believe being mostly led by Hannah O'Malley. We're keeping contact on that because the two are linked. We'll leave it there.
Thanks, Yachal. Next up, how we move ourselves and our stuff around, also known as the transport group. Bruno?
Yes. Kia ora. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes. Last Hui, Julie challenged our group to action, and we actually did that. We got on the first meeting, we got together and we came up with 10 possible actions that we could do. But that was put on hold because Claire Scott from TDC said transport submissions were very important because it's almost like there's a scene change in transport. And we need to support a lot of the actions that are happening both locally and at government. And so we've been flat out with submissions, approximately about 1 submission per week over the last 4 weeks, and there's still more to come. So I won't say any more about those submissions. Maybe we could put them somewhere on the forum so people can read them. But a couple of questions. Often we, or I suppose I should say, I get to hear about submissions very late, if at all. And we just don't get enough time with the other work that we're doing on the, our normal work we do. So it would be great if we could develop a more streamlined process for getting submissions up somewhere or getting them out when they first appear. And I'm not sure how that can be done, but that's a little challenge for someone to think about. And the second
did you
thing,
want to speak to that, answer that question? I know you've been doing some work on that. Yeah, and you, and Wheatley.
Well, Jessie had a brilliant idea quite some time ago, which was to create a submissions page on the website. And basically, most government departments do not have RSS feeds. So there's no way to kind of make a pool of feeds coming from different departments in order to track it. Someone has to do it manually. So basically, Jessie has been doing that. And the submissions appear on the submissions page, which is inside the website. All submissions appear on the headlines page when they go up, and they're also fed to the front page of the website.
Good.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
that, Anne. And in terms of where they've come from, just want to acknowledge Rachel Sanson's been excellent at forwarding things through to me as she finds out about them in terms of submission opportunities that are coming up. So yeah, they have been going up onto the website, and I'd encourage all of you to possibly spend a little bit more time looking at the website if you can, because there's a huge wealth of information up there, and it's very difficult to keep in touch with all of you if we're just relying on emails. So yeah, the website's a good place to look.
And thank you very much. And the second thing is, About the submissions myself, I know I've said this before, but individual submissions are not as effective as group submissions. But as someone in our group said, it's just tiring when with all this toing and froing, and it actually turns people off from putting in submissions. And as far as I can see, submissions do not have to be perfect, not as perfect as an action plan. It's about making governing bodies open up to different ideas. So I'd like to see some more flexibility in submissions so that we can make it more representative of a group. And as I said, they don't have to be spot on of what the group is thinking. I think it's enough to present something to different bodies and say, hey, look at this. So that's what I've got to say.
Thanks, Bruno, and well done on all those submissions. The next group is how we support nature and store carbon. I saw Chris is on the call. Chris?
Yeah, just unmuting myself.
Oh,
right. Okay. Right. Thanks. So we haven't had a whole lot happening over the last month, but there are a few things in the pipeline. One is that we've, for quite some time, we've been talking about how to, well, that we've got the importance of biodiversity and the problems of adaptation that our ecosystems and species have to climate change, but also opportunities for carbon sequestration. And they've been sort of running in parallel. And so looking at how to get some synergies between those. In other words, can we identify types of ecosystems, locations, places where we can enhance sequestration and also get some big gains for biodiversity or increase resilience. And there's an awful lot we don't know about that. So we've been talking about trying to convene some sort of a workshop, to get experts and sort of organizations, councils around the table to find out what we do know and where the gaps are, what we don't know, and maybe develop a project to fill those gaps. And so that's something we're going to be talking about with people over the next, and institutions over the next few weeks. And tomorrow specifically, there's the Bioforum at the TDC, and we'll be putting that on the, well, out for discussion with people there then. And one other thing in that space is that there's a report just come out that Fiona Eade pointed us to from the UN, about biodiversity and climate change, and that's just gone up on the forum website as well. It's a really great report, about 40 conclusions, recommendations there. So that shows that what we've been thinking about here at local level actually is relevant to what the big guys have been discussing at global level as well, and we come down to some local action to maybe support that. And in terms of local action, we've mentioned before about the issue around the Snowdon's Bush in Wakefield, getting right down to local areas, and there's been some developments there. Michael North has just been looking at the site and has come up with some recommendations for restoration and sort of replanting of some of those areas around the bush and in the bush. And we've been talking with DOC about getting some inputs from them. And we've got a public meeting set for the 27th of July in Brightwater to see what community support we can get to drive some restoration in that area. It's a bit dependent on getting DOC coming to the party because they've had some change in personnel. But as long as that comes along, we should get a public meeting on the 27th of July. And one group member, Colin Davis, the guy who's been very much involved with microforestry, is keen to have a sort of a field event one weekend at his place to show a demonstration of his microforestry experience, his plots there in Enniglyn. And we'll be deciding soon on a date for that, but probably sometime late July, early August, I should think. And right, a couple of other quick things. Again, TET and Fiona Eade organised a meeting on the blue carbon, on the sort of progress of projects in that area, and That was about 2 weeks ago at Richmond Library, and there was a huge turnout there, probably about 30 people amongst sort of NGOs, organizations, businesses as well. So people involved, interested in the science and the application of blue carbon, but also potential funders for projects. And so there's developments happening in that space. And finally, on the 6th of July, there's a meeting related to the Tasman Environment Plan, a workshop, again at Richmond Library, 9:30 to 11:30, on infrastructure and energy in the Tasman Environment Plan. So there are biodiversity implications for that, but also for the other groups in the forum you may be interested to go along. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. I believe you prefaced that with, oh, there hasn't been much going on, and then had the longest report of anyone. So well done. The next group is how we stay healthy and connected. Anyone want to speak on behalf of that group?
If there's no one else in the group speaking for that group, I'm somewhat in touch with that group, and what they're particularly focused on at the moment is engaging with the board of the DHB to talk about the development of a full-scale climate action plan for the DHB, and also the potential use of the climate action book within the DHB.
Thanks, Joanna. And that group is having a meeting in Stoke at Pūtangitangi Green Meadows on the 18th of July. It's sort of in a process of reforming. So if you're interested in getting involved in that group, that's an opportunity to go along and connect and share your ideas and commit to some actions. Next up, we have, oh, Julie, did you want to say anything about the schools group? Julie Cave? Are you still on? I did have a message from Sally beforehand saying that there's not too much to update. They've got a very solid action plan, which is really impressive, but they're just waiting on a few people to get back to them about things. And then strategic comms, David Bartle, over to you.
So we've been handing out this poster. Can everyone see that? Anyway, we've been using a poster to help promote the Climate Action Book, along with all sorts of other things we've been doing to help get the Climate Action Book into everybody's hands through, already Anya's mentioned the display at the council, which you should have a look at if anyone's in downtown. It's really interesting. And but also we've done newspaper articles and other things in that area to get the message out that we've got this wonderful Climate Action Book for everyone to use. Now we're very keen to also work more closely with other groups, and it'd be really great if you're having a meeting where you could include Anya in your invitation, so we come along and talk about where communications can be of more help. You know, you heard earlier about how we've got some skills to do with the website that we can use to help some of the things you're working on. But we'd really love to meet more closely with some of the other groups and use your meeting process to invite Anya, because she's our paid member of our team, communications manager. Please do consider that. Now, in terms of new work, we're looking further at what individual commitment means in terms of the Climate Action Book. And we're thinking about the value of an online pledging tool to help further stimulate action. This can include a big company with a sticker, with digital linking, displaying, explaining what the pledge is. Now, other people are using this type of pledge tool, and we would urge you to look at the Plastic-Free July Aotearoa campaign for an example of that. It's quite a neat way to sort of raise consciousness. And we think this could fit into the Society and Culture Group's work on its Switch project, to stimulate action too. So this is both an extension of the action book, but also a communication tool we can use. And on other matters, we think the internal work that we're doing through the newsletter is really important. And Anya is leading that with Jessie's help. And we're going to continue, I think, to try to grow the newsletter, including explaining more detail how the forum is functioning, so everyone can see the bigger picture. And we think this will help strengthen our shared understanding of what we're doing together here. In addition to the website, which Anne has commented on, we are looking to how we could further enhance aspects of it, including the front page. And we would welcome your ideas, pictures, videos, stories to help grow our communication effort and the forum's communications more broadly. So do use us as a conduit to getting some of that material out, please. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. Any other items from groups before we move on to our next session?
Perhaps I'll just say a quick word about a sort of group information with a relationship with the Science, Technology and Research, or STAR group. There's a little cluster that's formed around relating to Statistics New Zealand, to engage them in conversation about what data would better serve our purposes in monitoring emissions in regions, and not just our region, but all regions. David Eyre is part of this group, and also Tord Kjellstrom. It also is led by Daniela Ramirez of NCC, and Anna Geraghty of TDC is part of it. It's just started its work, so I won't say any more about it than that, but it's kind of information and getting going.
Can I just give a quick update from Society and Culture as well, while me?
Yes, please.
So I think we in terms of goals and strategy, we haven't really focused on that, but we have, I think, successfully kept a space open for discussions, which I mean, one of the things is that leads into, as we keep pointing out, it leads into everything we do. It leads into the the work, the projects that I'm involved in. So it might not be directly climate forum related, but it actually having that space, I think, is quite critical. So I would, we've been using Twist as a general discussion for just any thoughts really. So it's been it's actually worked quite well at just keeping conversations going and really thinking outside the square, pulling in different perspectives. If you haven't got it, it's on our group page, but I'll just put it into the chat. So please join us on here. We meet every Monday at 1 o'clock. It was Thursday, it's now Monday. Either online and actually been meeting here at my office as well, sort of a combination of the two. And we may mix that up again and have some walking meetings and what have you, but that will be on the calendar if it's different. I'm not very good at putting this on the calendar, but basically 1 o'clock every Monday. And we've been using, I don't know if anybody else has done this, but we've switched to Jessie, which is a free Zoom-like tool, which has worked certainly well enough for us, and it's free. So that's and you can just join our meeting there. We've also refocused on the switch, has been mentioned. So I put the link in there to the original document that James created. So we're putting a bit of energy into this at the moment, and James is working on some workshops which will be coming up in the near future, which will really be about trying to get upskill people in the switch and understanding it, and actually creating this sort of support network for people who are changing what they're doing, changing their habits. And on parallel with that, what we want to do is also start putting out suggestions, and we've been talking about a format for that. And each week we say, well, we're going to do it this week, but actually create so much discussion around it, which is of course the idea of the switch in the first place, that we don't quite agree on that. But maybe next week that we put something out. And the first one, we talked about pinning it to the intergenerational strategy, and and actually looking at not things that are directly climate related, but things like community, and certainly to start with anyway. And with the first suggestion we're thinking about is just actually meeting your neighbors. So something that relatively abstract, that actually just getting out your house, go and see who your neighbors are, and introducing yourself really, and how you might go about doing that. So that's been the conversation recently anyway. But yeah, please come and join us, and yeah, we're open to any discussion.
Thanks very much, JP. Yakal, did I see your hand up before for something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I'll just stuck in with another wee update, which could have been a celebration, I guess. Group agnostic, but coming up later in the year, planned for early September at present. I've sought funding from Engineering New Zealand and also the New Zealand Coastal Restoration Society, so that we can carry out a second sea level rise topic talk as part of a wider transition topics series. So this will be reconvening after a successful almost 100-person audience late last year in October, when we heard from a panel including Chris Cameron. This time around, with a look to dive a little bit deeper on the subject, bring in subject experts from around the country to explore successful methods for mitigation and adaptation, community engagement, and some of the personal challenges on those journeys. If there's anyone here who would be interested in joining some of the co-design of that event, please get in touch with me. I'll chuck my email down in the chat. You're most welcome to, even if it's just as a spare mind and an echoing board and a perspective. And we look forward to having everyone in the audience come September. Thanks, Jessie.
Thanks, Yakal. Excellent. Any other final points from anyone on the groups, updates, asks for help, anything? I see that there's a comment in the chat from Bruno saying that maybe we need a way of submitting submissions that we know about, so that other people on the forum can see them. So I'm just going to hijack the meeting for a moment and take the opportunity to show you the website, where you can do that yourself. So I think you can see my screen now. Basically, come to the website, click on the submissions page, and then you'll see a few submissions that are open for consultation at the moment. If you know about another submission that's coming up, click add event. Slightly confusing that it's called add event, but this is Anne had a crafty workaround, and this is the best way that we could get submissions up here. Put in the name of the submission opportunity, type a little description about it, include any key links, and then click whether it's national, regional, specifically for Nelson or Tasman. If it's a priority one, click that one. You can pop a photo in here and then save and publish. It's as simple as that. So it's a really easy collaborative way to put in information about submissions. Anne, go for it.
The priority submissions, actually that feeds to the front page. And so if you click priority, it should be something that you really want to flag to the whole forum and the public. So for example, currently there's one up there about glyphosate, which isn't so directly relevant.
Thanks very much. So yeah, that's just to encourage everyone to use the website, and please add things to it yourself where you can. You're going to hear a little bit more about Marlene's role as coordinator soon, but long story short, she's got limited time and lots to do. So the more that we can do to support and you know, take ownership of those things, the easier it will be for her. And I also see there's a comment from Gray saying, I'd like to make a comment about COVID. So Gray, if you think that's relevant to our discussion, you're welcome to share that.
Yes, since you've been talking about COVID quite a bit, this came out. George Brown was Prime Minister of UK, and Helen Clark, you know, and they were talking at a pretty high level about controlling COVID. And one of the key issues, a really big issue, was international cooperation, which was quite effective during this SARS epidemic, but it has declined recently, and that is a large reason why the COVID has been such a catastrophe in many countries, and the need to bring get a much better cooperation and be able to control epidemics when they arise. Yeah, that's a factor which they felt was really important.
Thanks, Gray. So we're now at the stage of moving on for a bit of an overview of our weaving plan. I gather that this plan is sort of a source of confusion for a lot of people. So I thought it might be helpful to just have a little bit of a chat about the weaving plan and why it exists and why it's really, really important for the forum. So bear with me while I talk to you for a few moments, and then I'm just going to open the floor for any questions. But basically the weaving plan, or the plan to weave our communities together, if we use its full name, is the action plan for the forum. So we've got our climate action book, which is that beautiful resource that the forum put together over the last year, and that's for our region, and it includes lots and lots of different ideas and wonderful suggestions, but us as a forum, a group of people coming together, we don't have the capacity to do all of those actions ourselves, and instead we're focusing on the things that we've been talking about throughout this whole hui. The reason to put all those things that we're doing into a plan is so that anyone who's not in the forum can actually understand what it is that we do, because it's really hard to articulate what we do as a large and constantly growing and evolving group of people. So that's why we're putting together this weaving plan, so we can actually put down on paper, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and this is why it matters. And most importantly, this is why we need your funding support or your business's support or whatever it is that we need help with. It's a way of kind of justifying to the outside world why they should be involved in some way. So that's the why of the weaving plan. And then in terms of the what, it's at the moment it's 3 pages of these are the types of actions that we're doing, these are our topic groups that are doing it, these are the audiences we're looking at, and the crucial missing piece at the moment is the actual what we're doing. So in these hui, we hear a little bit about what groups are working on, but to then be able to actually put that down on paper with a little bit of specificity. So like in terms of timelines, in terms of who exactly it is you're working with, how many people, how much money you might need to pull it off, or other expertise that might be required, resources, maybe you need shovels for planting, maybe you need a tech expert for your edible mapping. We need to know that so that we can then go out and seek that and help you to do it. So that's the what we're looking for, is that level of detail. In terms of how we want to get that information from you, there's a very easy to complete form. It's got quite a lot of questions in it, but it's well worth working through. I'm just going to put it in the chat. And I really would like to acknowledge all of the groups that have already completed the form. There's a few of you. There's What We Grow and Eat, What We Make, Buy and Waste, How We Support Nature and Store Carbon, and a recent addition from How We Move Ourselves and Our Stuff Around. So that information is really, really helpful in terms of us being able to pull together the picture of what the forum's doing and then share that. But we are still looking for that information from how we get energy, where we live and work, and how we stay healthy and connected. And I know for the most part that's because those groups are going through transitions and shifts and changes and still kind of working out what it is they want to do. But I guess I just want to make it really clear that the sooner we can get this plan finalized, the sooner we can then actually get on with turning it into action, and then seeking out any funding or other support that's needed. So that's I think the what, the why, the how, and I'll now turn over to all of you to bombard me with questions if you have any. So any questions? David, Bartle?
I'd agree with everything you've said, and I would say this is something we have to work on together as part of making the forum successful. So it's a sort of part of our etiquette, really, in a strange sort of way. We're terrific in our etiquette on our hui, but this is also part of our etiquette if we're going to work well on this stuff. And it not least apart from the project definition, the funding, it would also help identify work that new people would like to join. We're aware of newcomers to the forum not sure where they should go, and this would really be helpful. We want to be an inclusive organisation. That's all I'd say.
Thanks, David. Becky?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something, because when I actually completed the submission, I just wanted to say it was actually a real pleasure to do it, because it was such a great form. I really enjoyed it. Actually helped shape some of the plan, and I've actually used some of the answers to use for my own proposal that we're working on at the moment. I was just wondering if we could maybe even have, like, I know that's an online form, can we have a PDF somewhere of those questions, kind of as a bit of a template for people to be able to write a proposal? Because I thought some of them were really thought-provoking and got me actually thinking about, yeah, what funding do I need, what people power do I need, and things like that. And I thought it was really helpful to have that. And so thank you to whoever put it together. It was really, really great.
That was Jessie.
We love you, Jessie.
Thanks, Becky. I've never heard anyone say it was a pleasure to complete a form, so you have no idea how much that warms my heart.
Meant with feeling.
Going to point out that Society and Culture doesn't appear as a group, and as far as I know, we weren't taken off. So just to raise that.
Whereabouts, JP?
On the what forum group are you submitting this project on behalf of?
Okay. I think
we don't exist.
Yeah, that's probably because the form was created at the point several months ago, at the point where the weaving plan was only going to be the topic-based groups. So it's evolved many iterations since then. So that, thanks for pointing that out. I'll make sure I go and edit the form to add those back in.
Thank you.
So yeah, I guess my really strong ask to all of you is, if you're in a group that hasn't already submitted your project request, if you could do so like within the next 2 weeks would be ideal. And in terms of the bigger context for that, is because Joanna will very soon be meeting with representatives from Nelson City Council to talk about what the expectations are around how we use the funding that they're very generously supplying us with. So we really need to be able to say, this is what the forum's working on, and these are some of the outcomes that we're working towards. So the sooner we have that information, the better. And the long and short of it will be is if you don't get that information, and then we may not be able to provide support for you in ways that you would like. So, yep, Vicky.
Sorry, I just would like some clarification on that. So the money that the council has given us will help towards these projects. Will that limit the funding that we can then apply for through the council for these projects? Will they say we've already contributed towards this and so we're not willing to give any more money, or?
I'm not sure how deep to go into this because it's a big question, but the money from the council will primarily be going, it needs to be determined based on the meeting Joe's about to have with the council. But our kind of thinking around that is it goes towards kind of core costs of the forum, part of which may be a person who comes on to support projects, and then funding, like seeking additional funding for on a project basis. Am I making sense? And council has indicated that just because they've provided that long-term plan funding for the ongoing operation of the forum doesn't mean that individual projects couldn't also be funded, because there's lots of different funding streams. So the Repair Cafe, for example, is funded by a waste minimisation grant from Nelson City Council. So it's, yeah, if it's for different things, then
that we would have to have all our repair cafes in Nelson, and until we've spent our money before we can move out of, because we are Nelson Tasman. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's the sort of impression I got. So
yes, and that is one of the implications of having funding from a council, is generally that whatever activity you're doing has to be associated with the area that that council operates within. So we've received funding last year from Tasman for use of venues for our hui, and they had to be obviously used at council venues in the Tasman region, which is why our hui were held in the Tasman region primarily last year. Any other questions relating to the form or the weaving plan? And the only other point I think I wanted to pick up on was Bruno had mentioned that your group had lots of actions that you'd written down, but you've paused them because you're focusing on submissions, which is excellent. But if you do think that maybe in the next 12 months you'll want to look to do any of those actions, it wouldn't hurt to put them into that form as well, so that we have a full picture of what it is that you're really ideally wanting to do. There's opportunity in the form to say what help that you need. So, you know, if you would like to run a campaign about active transport, but you've got no volunteers to do it, you can pop that in there, and that then means that we can then put out information about these things so we can attract more people in to help with all of this stuff. You don't have to be doing it all on your own. Cool. Okay. I think that's really everything I want to say about the weaving plan. So thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for your contributions to the wonderful tapestry of the forum that we're weaving together. The next few minutes of the forum are a little bit sad, because this is the last hui at which Jessie will be coordinator. I certainly hope it's not the last hui that will have Jessie, and I understand that's not going to happen. But Jessie will be stepping out of the role as coordinator, and so this is a little goodbye to Jessie. And I want to say just a few words about Jessie before I then turn to a happy theme, which is introducing our next coordinator. But yeah, Jessie came to her first forum Hui in July, is that right? July 2020. Jessie came with a law degree and a mind for analytic and critical thinking and creative problem solving. And she stepped in immediately on a voluntary basis. At that point, Julie was in dire need of assistance, and Jessie seemed like a little bit of a miracle happening at the right time, because the forum was growing, very complex organism, a lot of things happening, and keeping it all together and keeping it flowing was a pretty big job, and Jessie stepped into that job, which made a huge difference at the time. And happily, after a few months, it became possible to pay Jessie for 20 hours a week of work. And she helped to build the forum into a coherent structure and set of procedures. And the weaving plan, as is obvious, was a particular focus of her work. So it was Jessie who kept the rhythm of the forum going. You know, 1 week, the admin and finance meeting, the next week, the leadership group meeting, the next week, the monthly Hui, and so on. That's the rhythm of our forum. I enormously appreciated Jessie's attention to detail, little things like when you get an agenda, Jessie has all the things that you should be reading before you attend that meeting. Really helpful things. Jessie answered everyone's questions. She knew where to find information efficiently, and Jessie spent a lot of time answering forum members' questions. And always graciously, with that lovely smile we can see right now, and with kindness. I very much enjoyed Jessie's problem solving, which was always open to new ideas, direct about whether she thought that might work or whether it needed improvement. And so always creative in problem solving and always going above and beyond. So a huge thank you with all my heart, Jessie, for the truly wonderful work that you have done for this forum. And we look forward to continuing with you in the forum in a less demanding role. And we think that TDC is very lucky indeed to be adding you to its staff. So big thank you to Jessie.
Thank you so much, Jo. I've never had such a send-off before. That's really lovely. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's deeply meant, Jessie.
Well, the real send-off, of course, is at the Prince Albert next Wednesday from 4 o'clock. So hope to see you there.
Yeah, thanks, Sonia. So now the happy bit. That is introducing Marlene, who comes to us from Belgium with guess what, a master's degree in law. She's spent 10 years of her career as a legal advisor, both to the Green Party in Belgium and also on environmental matters for an organization for seed sovereignty in Belgium. No, an organization dealing with local communities. And she's been a coordinator previously for an organization promoting seed sovereignty, and a project manager for an agency promoting gardening. And gardening is a very big passion with Marlene, and has been for a long time. Marlene currently works on an organic farm, and I take it that means kind of fingers in the soil, Marlene, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So also Marlene has lots of experience with volunteers, and is a forum member. Marlene is moving to the position of coordinator from membership of the forum. And we on the selection committee very much appreciated Marlene's warmth and also her obvious passion for the work that we're doing in line with her values and principles. So welcome, Marlene. We know that this transition and induction period is pretty testing. There's a huge amount to learn in a short time, but we're very, very happy to have you on board, and I think all of us will look forward to getting to know you better.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, you can hear me well. Thanks. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm really happy to be with you all, and really looking forward to to take the foot of Jessie, and I hope I will be as good, and because I think she put the level really high, but I will try to stay at that level. So yeah, happy to meet you and to meet you face by face during the next week or leadership group meetings. So yeah.
Excellent, Marlene. Thank you. Okay, I'll just make a quick little announcement before we move to close things off, and that's to remind people that the forum is hosting an event on the 30th of June at the Cathedral, and that's a talk that Rod Oram is giving. Someone correct me if I haven't got it quite right. I think it's Your Faith and Climate Change or something like that. So it's 5:30 to 7, I think, at the Cathedral on the 30th of June. And let me, well, first of all, let me thank everyone for particularly contributing to the weaving plan, which, as you understand, is extremely important to our moving forward. Any last things that anyone is wanting to add before we go to our closing karakia? Jessie.
Just one tiny thing, just about Marlene's role, just so that you're aware, she'll be 15 hours a week, which is such a short time and it goes so fast. So just to be patient and be kind while she's learning the ropes. Don't overwhelm her with too many questions. I know you will all do this anyway, but I just want to put that out there. Yeah. And one last thing. Thank you. It's been such a pleasure working with all of you. Like, this forum constantly blows my mind how much you all throw at it. Time, energy, passion, effort, creativity. It's just incredible. And yeah, like from my generation, I'm so grateful that there are so many people with so much experience and knowledge willing to share it, like yourselves. It's amazing. So thank you so much for allowing me to be part of it, and I look forward to seeing where the forum goes.
Terrific. Yeah, thank you, Jessie. So Jessie, can we ask you to give the closing karakia?
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure. Kia tau ngā manaakitanga a te mea ngāro, ki runga, ki tēnā o tātou, kia māhia te hua ngā kikahi, kia toi te kupu, toi te mana, toi te aroha, toi te reo Māori, kia tūturu, ka whakamaua, kia tīna, hui e, tai ki e.
Thank you, everyone. Till we next meet.
Thank you, Joe.
Nice to see you all. Thanks, Jessie. Good luck.
Thank you, Jessie.
Thank you. Bye. See you soon.
Hi, everyone.